Welcome to your last lesson of science. This lesson is going to be really exciting because it's going to make you use all of your knowledge that you've gathered the last couple of weeks and then use it to design your own engineering project. So let's get started. Now, we need to do some backpedaling to remember the beginning of the science unit. Now, remember the yellow shell snail and the banded shell snail? I want you to go back and think about the traits that make it easier for the snails with banded shells to survive. What are some of the growth snails' adaptive traits in the coastal Wales environment? I want you to keep thinking about that, and we'll go back to that in a few slides. Now let's go back and read a little bit more about biomimicry engineers. You read a little bit about them last week, but we're going to go a little bit more into detail this week. Okay, because this is going to help us plan our own designs, and that's really, really exciting. Remember, we read that biomimicry engineers observe organisms to learn more about the structures of organisms' parts and how these structures make them good for a particular function. Let's look over the pages we read again. And again, this book, there's going to be a link at the bottom. So what is biomimicry? Remember, engineers make things to solve problems. They think about a problem and try to design a solution to the problem. And sometimes engineers get their ideas from observing the traits of living organisms, like the shape of a fly's wing. Getting ideas in this way is called biomimicry. Now let's go to page 6. I'm going to read this with you. Based on what they learn from observing organisms, the engineers plan what their design should be like and how it should work. They think about how the design can solve a problem. Next, they make the design so they can test it and see how well it works. They think about which parts worked well and what went wrong in the test. Then they revise the design to make it better. Engineers keep learning, planning, making, testing, and revising until they come up with a solution to their problem. Remember, you looked into this last week when you were looking through the cockroach robot design. What did you learn about what biomimicry engineers do? Go ahead and hit pause and think about this for a second. If you're saying that engineers learn about organisms and they try to make something that solves a problem, then they test their science, and then they revise their designs, you're on a good track. Now, I want you to turn to pages 14 and 15 in the book. You're going to have to choose one design from these two pages, and you're going to read about that design. This is going to be important for your first part of your assignment on Teams. You can either hit pause now, go look at those pages, and then come back later, or you can continue with this lesson. It's up to you. Part of your assignment is going to be answering this question. How did the trait of an organism help engineers get an idea for a design? And what problem did the design solve? For example, engineers studied the structure of the trilobites' fossilized eyes and designed tiny cameras like the ones used in cell phones that can take very sharp photos. The engineers concluded that eyes with sharp vision were an adaptive trait for the trilobites. Being able to see sharp images helped the trilobite see predators in its environment. How does this camera based on trilobite eyes help people? How does the design you read about help people? Another way to say that engineers get ideas from organisms' traits is that their designs are inspired by traits. Here's the key concept that you should know. Organisms' traits can inspire engineers to create designs that solve problems. And if you're wondering, what's a design? Well, design is something new made to solve a problem. Let's go back. What is biomimicry? Biomimicry is getting engineering ideas from organisms' traits. Today, we're going to investigate this question. How can organisms' traits help engineers make successful designs? we will now get to do what biomimicry engineers do. We're going to use ideas about an organism's traits to plan what a design should be like and how it should work. Are you all ready to brainstorm ideas for designs? I know I am. The engineering firm sent us an email a long time ago. They sent guidelines for the designs they would like you to plan. When engineers make designs, they think about how their designs will work to solve problems. Here are the guidelines that they sent us. There's only 2, so it should be simple. Guideline number 1. Your design should use ideas from one of the adaptive traits of the grove snail. Guideline 2. Your design should help solve a problem. So this table is actually also included in your team's assignment. You can pull that up and we can do this together at the same time. You can pause and do it on your own and then come back and check your answers. Or you can look through this lesson and then go do the assignment. It's up to you. Now let's brainstorm some ideas of how the adaptive trait of the grove snail can inspire designs that solve problems. So notice that we have at the top, adaptive trait of grove snail. Why are grove snails with this trait more likely to survive in their environment? And how could this trait help solve a problem? So the first adaptive trait of grove snails is the shell color that blends in with their environment. That's one of the adaptive traits that we thought of at the beginning of the unit. That the banded snails blended better in their environment than the yellow snails, and that's why they weren't getting eaten as much by the birds. So why are grove snails that have an adaptive trait for shell color that blends in with an environment more likely to survive? Well, think. Why was it easier for them to survive in that environment? Well, it's easier for them to avoid being seen by their predator. So I'm going to write that down in my little chart. Next, I need to think, how could this trait help solve a problem? How can something being able to hide and being able to avoid being seen by a predator help solve a problem? Here's an example of how color can solve a problem. Some people want to leave an extra house key outside in a yard or on a porch, but they don't want everyone to see it, right? So if the extra key was in a container that blended in with the environment, that would solve the problem. No one would be able to see the key, but the person would know it was there. I'm going to record that on our chart. When you're recording this on your chart, feel free to use these ideas, but think of some other ones. So I use a key, but you can come up with different ideas of how color can help solve a problem. How else could something that blends in with the environment help solve a problem? Think about it. Now, let's go to the next one. The next adaptive trait is the strong shell. Why are snails with this trait for stronger shells more likely to survive in their environment? I want you to think about that. Hit pause and think. Why are snails with traits for stronger shells more likely to survive in their environment? If you're saying that they're more protected from being crushed, you got it. I'm going to write that down too. A strong shell helps snails be protected from being crushed. Now I have to think, how could this trait help solve a problem? I got an idea. Here's an example of how strength can solve a problem. When I pack tortilla chips in my lunch bag and put them in my backpack with my books, sometimes the chips get crushed. So if the chips could be in a container that protects them from being crushed, that would solve the problem. So on column 3, row 3, I'm going to write, could help protect things that can break easily, like tortilla chips. How could the trait for shell strength help solve a problem? What other things might be important to protect? What other things break easily? Go ahead and hit pause and think, what is weak? What breaks easily that I could protect with a strong shell? Whatever ideas you came up with, make sure to write them down on the table on your team's assignment. Now, let's get to planning our design. You will now choose one design idea. First, you will think about the problem itself and how it uses ideas from growth snail traits. Then, you will draw your designs. The Getting Ideas for Designs chart includes a few of your ideas for designs inspired by 2 adaptive traits of growth styles. You might have your own design ideas inspired by these traits. You can use the ones that I came up with, but I definitely suggest you come up with your own ideas. Remember, you're practicing being a biomimicry engineer, so have your own original thoughts. I'm sure they're way better than mine. Now, your assignment is in teams. You're going to decide on one design idea and answer questions about it. Question number 1, what problem will you try to solve? And question number 2, how can the adaptive trait of growth cells help you with this design? You will have to draw your design. As you draw, think about how your design shows that you are meeting the design guidelines. You're just going to do this on a different sheet of paper when you upload it. Make sure that when you are drawing, you label your design to show your thinking. Because you won't be there for your teacher to ask you questions, so you want to make sure that it's clear. You're going to draw your design, and then you're going to check to see if your design meets the design guidelines, which are also included in your team's assignment. Your design should use ideas from the adaptive traits of growth styles, and your design should help solve a problem. You're going to continue drawing your design, and you're going to make any changes so your design meets the guidelines. And that's it. Since this is a big assignment, you're going to have until next Tuesday to do it. We're so excited to see all of your design ideas and how you have become a biomimicry engineer. We hope that you've enjoyed these science lessons and that you are ready to think of your own designs in the future. Have a wonderful day, and we're excited to see your designs. And if you have any questions, please make sure to reach out to your teacher. Have a good day, biomimicry engineers!